There is a wonderful poet who has a line called, "Live in the layers, not the litter." Live in the layers, not the litter. And I think of that as like leaf litter, and then there's deeper layers. And the litter is our phones and our appointments and our busyness and our streaming everything, the fire hose of information. And the layers are the noticing. So noticing is part of it. The other thing is, I think whatever your background is, whether there's religious background or cultural, ethnic background, there are rituals that run deep in all of those identities. So I feel like if you feel a sense of identity yourself, a positive sense, not something that suppresses other people through that identity, yet you can plumb those layers and depths too, that's part of it, is looking for it there. But listen, I don't walk around all day noticing the opportunities for me. I'm basically folding the laundry and doing appointments and writing and wasting time like everybody else. But when something important happens, that's what slows me down.
Everybody, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. I have another author on the podcast today. We're excited to talk about milkweed and honey cake. Oh, and so much more. I'm excited. Wendy's here, and she's got an amazing book out for you to read and to fall in love with. And you're going to love this guest. She's really fun to talk to. And during the course of this conversation, there might actually be a part read from the book. Yes, hang on. You're going to enjoy it. Wendy, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. Nice to have you here.
Thank you very much, Dave. I'm very happy to be here.
Excellent. Excellent. Let everybody know, Wendy, where are you in this big world of ours?
I am talking from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the neighborhood of West Mount Airy. We are a city of neighborhoods, so you got to always identify your neighborhood.
Yeah. Born and raised? Is this where you've been in life?
I grew up in small town Connecticut, and I was educated in Boston at first, college, and then came here for grad school way back, and then settled in Philly.
There you go.
So
amazing. Okay, because I love doing this at the beginning of the podcast, because we have people going, wait, I'm from Philly. Wait a minute. What? I want to see Wendy. I want to meet her. This is great. So I just love kind of traveling the world through a podcast. It's always fun.
Great.
It's exciting. So tell us, Wendy, when did all this start for you, where you're like, you know what? I've got a few minutes to write a book. I'm going to become an author. I'm just going to do it. Like, did somebody give you a gentle nudge to think about this? Or was this something that you just came up with? You're like, I'm going to be an author.
Right. Well, it's a journey, Dave. I have been writing my whole life. As soon as I could pick up a pen, I kept journals when I was a little kid and scrawling, an earnest teenager, writing letters and all of that. But I also wrote essays. I was editor of my school newspaper in high school. And so I was writing. But I actually went into pediatric psychology, and I needed to earn a living, and I was very interested in psychology, but I was still writing. And I discovered that what I loved to write was essays, the scholarly work. I did it, the academic kind of work, but I didn't really like doing that. I like writing essays. I like writing little stories. And about, 5 years ago-ish, I thought, I have enough essays for a travel book. I was writing travel essays. Some of them were published. And so I started in earnest. I thought I'll catch the wave of women's solo travel writing, and I'll be one of those brave women out in the world with her children in the desert. And then I started to really look closely at those essays, and it was not actually only geographic journeys I was taking. It was journeys of what some people might call the spirit, or looking for meaning. And as I looked at that, the light bulb did go off at that point that, oh my goodness, I have been dealing with the question of making meaning in my entire career in some respect or another. And as soon as I realized that, I started to work on some old essays, revising them, developing some new ones, and then life happened, the pandemic for one, and some other things. And I was drawing on old notes. I have a notebook or a pad in every room in the house, and I'm always jotting stuff down and writing little pieces of essays. So I started pulling all these things together. And this idea of a book with the thread of ritual running through it became the focus. And then a couple years ago, I really started working on that in earnest and refining it. And it took the form of a memoir because I realized that I didn't want to write about these things as some abstraction, that I wanted to tell my stories. I like reading stories and I wanted to tell them. And when I say it's a journey to becoming an author or writer, for the longest time, I very shyly would say, well, I'm a psychologist who writes. Or even when I was, by the way, teaching writing, okay, I had become a writing teacher. And then I suddenly realized, no, I'm a writer. I am a writer. You don't have to have published a book, and I say this to your listeners and viewers who want to write, call yourself a writer. It's okay. You can do that. You don't have to. People say, what have you published? Well, it's very hard to get published, so you can call yourself a writer. And once I started doing that and teaching writing, that was my journey to being a writer. Now I can call myself, pat me on the back, an author, because I do have my first, can I do a little show and tell?
Oh, always, please.
Book. This is the one I use for talks. It's got all the tabs. The one in the background is the pristine copy that goes on the, the bookstore bookshelf.
Yeah.
So that's
okay.
it.
So take us to the moment when a dream becomes a reality, doorbell rings, you open the door, and there it is, the box of books. It's real now. It's an actual thing. You open the box. Take us back to that moment, please. There's authors listening, and they're like dreaming of this moment, Wendy. They seem like it's forever from now. But what does it feel like?
It's amazing. It's the reality. I still sit here and touch the actual book. Like, I love paper books. I mean, it's also on ebook if people want it, of course. But so my beloved mail carrier, Marcus, who our neighborhood is the kind that you get to know your mail carrier. You give him lemonade or water in the summer. He makes sure things don't get wet when it's raining.
Nice.
He knew about the book, and he knocks on the door, and my copies from the publisher came U.S. mail, and so he was delivering it. It wasn't those other companies. And he says, I think I know what this is. So he carried them into the house for me. On my Instagram, I have a picture. I asked his permission of him and me. He's like smiling, and he's like the last step in the chapter. So I opened them, and I will tell you what made me cry immediately was he said, "Can I buy a book?" It was just like, I live in a special place, but, and the reality of somebody wanting to read it, of having that physical book in your hand, it was very exciting. And looking at the cover and saying, all those months of debating with the art department at the publisher, I don't know how much people know about this, but a lot goes into a cover. And if you're lucky, there's a dialogue between the art director and the author. Some publishers will just give you the cover and you're done with it. But mine is a lovely publisher, so seeing the actual cover, holding it in your hand, turning the silky pages, seeing, oh, look, there's the stories that I wrote. They're like in a real place, and the title page is there, and the dedication, and a table of contents, and it's like, wow, it's a real book. It's absolutely thrilling, and that thrill has not worn off as I've gone around and had in-person talks, and people ask questions, and I sign the books. It's still very exciting. Although I don't remember who said it, but I remember an author I was listening to once at a talk said, though that publication is thrilling, but that you just have to keep the work going. And now I had started my next project before this was published, but that went by the wayside once launch happened, because I have all these nice podcasts like yours.
Right.
So
I like being a distraction for you, to give you a break from writing. That's nice. I like celebrating the launch of a book. I think sometimes authors rush through the celebration piece. Like, you do all this work, you get to that part where the finish line's happened. It's the starting line of getting out and promoting the book. So you feel like you're always working. But you get to the part where the book shows up and it's like, yay, I did it. And you're on to the next thing. I think we need to slow down and celebrate that, because this is a huge task. There's so many people who start and never get to the part where they actually shows up on the doorstep. So I love hearing those stories, Wendy, because I think they reinforce for the authors listening that it is possible. You can do this. What other words of advice do you have for a new author listening, Wendy, that now that you're at this part, what would have been helpful for you back early days of writing the book? What would you have liked to hear?
Okay. So if I may, though, I want to pick up on something you said about the need for celebration. Because the central theme of my book is the importance of ritual in all its forms. And if we don't celebrate the best moments and mark the challenging ones, it's very hard to make sense of the world. And so that pause that you're talking about to say, yay, mine was, I had a family book launch party and my sister organized, she had plates made up with the book cover on them, paper plate, paper plates for dinner. And so we went all out, dressed up and everything. So I think that marking that time and events in your life is very, very important and very meaningful. And it also forces you to take a breath and notice the world and notice and take a little, pat on the back and pride and all of that. But what advice would I have given? I want to even go back further than when I started this book, but because by the time I was really working on this book, I understood well how to write and how to do a big project. But I would say to writers in general at any stage that to have regular writing time, to protect that like mad. I'm not following my own advice now because I caught up in social media stuff and all these things that are making me cuckoo. But protect that time, even if it's 15 minutes every day, protect that time and rewrite till you feel like it's as perfect as you can get it. Read like crazy. And this is true even when you're working on a book. Like some people have rules about what they'll read and not read. I find that whatever I'm reading kind of seeps into my writing in some ways. I have my own style, but it's there. So there's certain kinds of books I like to read and not read. But if I don't feel like reading a full book, I'm always reading poetry because poetry is really good for your writing. It's the distillation of language, and it's really good poetry influences your writing in positive ways. So even if you're in the midst of rewriting a book, just read a short story, read poems, reread poems that you like. The thing I would say during the book writing phase and then later in the editorial phase, is to, this is going to sound obvious, but keep your life in a bit of balance. Like make sure whatever those things you ordinarily do, exercise, make your dinners, go out with friends for coffee, that it's not it's happening because it's a very solitary existence. And to also seek out community. One of the things that I found so helpful, because I am a first-time author in the sense of this is my first book-length publication, is that when I say social network, I don't mean like we use that word in modern parlance. I mean with real people. I called my friends or I emailed them or texted them and said, some of them were authors and editors, other ones new people. I had coffees. I have this shout out to my local around the corner High Point Cafe, independent coffee shop. I had coffee in that place a million times with published authors who live in my area, who I would say, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do about this? What do I do about that? Once I had the publisher, what do I do? What about this? What about that? And I just listened to them and took notes and took notes and took notes in my little notebook. And so talk to people, get a voice. Authors, it's the rare writer, unless they're super duper famous and don't have time, who doesn't want to talk to you. I'm a teacher by nature, and I taught college for many years and medical school. And most authors love to help newer authors get advice. What do I do about that? What do I do about this? I'm thinking about this kind of publisher. Does that work? What about, do I do podcasts? All that stuff that you can read it online, but get it from people who have lived it. So don't be afraid to ask for advice. People want to help you. So balance, keep writing, keep reading, ask for help. And then this is going to sound funny. Like, I'm a rather assertive person and I have strong ideas. But I realized after getting into the editorial and publishing process that I had a really good editor at the publishing house and a really good team, and that I better just shut up and do what they said. Not completely, like I argued some wording and stuff, but they knew what they were doing. So if you realize that a place is trustworthy, don't be afraid to take the advice. It's really it's very helpful. So.
And that's trustworthy advice coming from you. So that's good. I like that. What kind of authors? What are you reading? What are you excited about from a reader's perspective right now?
Okay, so I just finished, and I'm getting the author. I can't run into the living room to make sure I have the author. I'm terrible at remembering names of authors I haven't read. Percival Everett, who's an American writer, just last year published a book called James, which is a takeoff, if you will, on this Huck Finn, Mark Twain's Huck Finn, but it's the point of view of the young Black enslaved person, Jim. And it's from James's point of view, and Everett imagines him as a highly educated man, because there were enslaved people who managed to sneak and learn to read and write. And it's a heartbreaking book. It's very realistic about slavery and about the experience of Black people during that time. But there's also humor in it, and it is got these connections to Huck Finn. So I just finished that. And I just blanked on the poet that I've been reading. I should have looked that up. But anyway, I'm reading my poetry. I'm always reading poetry. And I also, a couple weeks ago, finished a book by the Irish author Niall Williams. I'm probably mispronouncing his first name, Niall. He's an amazing writer. I read everything I can by him. Niall Williams, I absolutely love. So I'm reading novels right now. People keep sending me memoirs to read, but I'm finding I'm sort of trying to make sure that when I'm talking about my book, I'm not suddenly going off on a tangent and talking about, I don't know, Anna Quinlan or some amazing memoirist, Margaret Wrinkle, one of these wonderful memoirists whom I love, but then realizing, wait, that's not my story, Wendy, you're telling the story. So this is also true when I'm writing. If I'm writing an essay, I tend not to read essays while I'm reading because I want to keep my voice clear. I tend to read novels and poetry. Other kinds of things I will read at different times. So, so that's what I just finished and really enjoyed. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about rituals. Let's talk about why we need to identify and magnify rituals in our day-to-day. I know this is something really important for you when it goes to the book, it goes to who you are. Break this down for us. Like, when I hear the word ritual, automatically I have in my mind a picture of what that means. I'm interested in your definition, Wendy. Kind of unpack this for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book tracks this definition and these parameters, if you will. I define ritual as everything ranging from those practices and ceremonies that most people would recognize: graduations, rites of passage, weddings, memorials, funerals, religious holidays, non-religious holidays. But I also include in ritual the practices or ceremonies that we stumble upon or we create out of yearning or necessity. And what I mean by that is that whether we have a background that includes ritual, I happen to be Jewish, so there's a lot of ritual in Judaism, like a lot of religions have ritual. But that doesn't always cut it. And I'm not completely observant in Judaism. I mean, I do a lot of Jewish things, as you see in the book. But so, for example, if you've had a tough breakup with a romantic partner, or even you've been on the outs with a friend at a certain point in life, um, there aren't a lot of rituals around that. Now, why bother with a ritual? Like, why not either try to mend it or go for therapy? I mean, I'm trained as a psychologist. I would certainly support people if you're suffering, talk to a friend, go get counseling, do all those things that we do. But that only goes so far because ritual provides us with a framework, as I said early in our discussion, for meaning making. So that tough breakup, you can psychologize it all you want. I guess that's not really a word. And you can talk to your friends, and then you need some marker to say, okay, it's done. That's it. And we don't have a lot of that. And so I tell a story in the book about my stumbling upon a ritual after a particularly hard end of a rather strange relationship. And it consisted of, and your listeners can laugh at this, but it was funny. I'm happy to show my foibles and my weaknesses and my mishaps. I'm not like, this is not a book. This is not a story of, oh, Wendy triumphs over, all the hardships in life. And she has such a beautiful ritual practice and is like spiritually on a different plane from other people. No, no, no. So I stumbled upon this because I came home from a vacation and there was a bouquet of flowers for my birthday, which had been actually 2 weeks prior, on the front step from somebody. And it was kind of rotting. And so I thought, oh, I'll just throw it out. And then I thought, no, I thought I can do something with it. It happened to be the month before the Jewish New Year, and that's supposed to be a time of reflection. And I thought, whoa, I can draw on that. So every day for a week, I took a piece of the rotting bouquet down to the river in the woods near my house. It's a beautiful urban park. And I dropped it into the river and watched it float away. And I did that for 7 days. Now, if you do read this story, you'll see that I wasn't so careful about it and I got pissed off and it was hot and sweaty and buggy and, but there were treasures along the way and they had to do with nature and with the resonances with my Jewish heritage. And the treasures were, for example, a spider web glinting in the morning sun with dew on it. And finally, a great blue heron landing near the bridge. And that took my breath away and that became part of what marked the ritual. I didn't plan that, but it became part of it. So some of these rituals, and as I explain in the book, have Jewish resonance to them. There are things about that ritual that echo some things in Judaism, but there's no Jewish ritual that you throw flowers into something for a bad breakup. That was I just made that up. But it ran deep for me, both in terms of my ties to nature and my love of nature, and also my sense of identity. So I think that ritual serves us as celebration that's more than cake and champagne, as marking the difficult times, whether out in the broken world. How do you deal with the broken world? Sometimes ritual can help us move forward and act to help others, or brokenness in our own lives, losses, painful things, and also mark time itself, which I think humans need to do. I will say one more thing about my definition of ritual, because you got me going on this.
Yeah, I like this.
People often say, well, isn't like putting your keys in the same place every morning so you remember where they were, or having your phone always be plugged in the same place, a ritual? I would call that a salutary practice. It's a good thing to do, like exercise. I would not call it a ritual because I'm not sure it has meaning associated with it. Now, some forms of exercise can become ritual if we do it in a certain way. But this is debatable. All the things that I've decided for now are open questions. What are the parameters? How much can we share each other's ritual? Can we borrow each other's and adapt them? What are the boundaries that we don't want to cross? with entering other people's rituals? So these are open questions to me as well.
Okay. So is it kind of like having your radar up and being aware of opportunities in your day to day and creating the ritual opportunity by just being more aware of your surroundings and not so caught up in our phones or our meetings or our deadlines, and life just seems to pass us by and the week's over. You're like, what happened this week? Like, what? I have not even have a clue of what I did this week. Is it just kind of being aware of the dew on a spider web, like these kind of moments? Is that kind of the focus for us? Do we need to be more aware?
I think that's part of it. Definitely is that. I hesitate to say slowing down because you can do it if you're walking quickly too. But um, I do think that busyness prevents us from noticing these opportunities. So there is a wonderful poet who has a line called "Live in the layers, not the litter." Live in the layers, not the litter. And I think of that as like leaf litter, and then there's deeper layers. And the litter is our phones and our appointments and our busyness and our streaming everything, the fire hose of information. And the layers are the noticing. So noticing is part of it. The other thing is, I think whatever your background is, whether there's religious background or cultural, ethnic background, there are rituals that run deep in all of those identities. So I feel like if you feel a sense of identity yourself, a positive sense, not something that suppresses other people through that identity, yet you can plumb those layers and depths too, that's part of it, is looking for it there. But listen, I don't walk around all day noticing the opportunities for me. I'm basically folding the laundry and doing appointments and writing and wasting time like everybody else. But when something important happens, that's what slows me down. The other thing is that I do have a rhythm to my week and to the seasons that does come out of Judaism. So we have a Friday night is the beginning of our Sabbath, Shabbat, it's called. And when I was little, my mother lit the candles for the beginning of the Sabbath every week. And as we were teens, we didn't have to be there. It was there no matter what. She was not particularly religious. I'm going to say this, but that was there like clockwork. And I still do that. I did that for my kids. And you talk about the week being over and what happened. Even if I don't feel like it, I'm by myself. I'm like, I don't feel like lighting candles. I'm just going to order a pizza and I'll be done with it. I do it. I do it because it does mark the time and cause you to reflect and to think about gratitude, because there's a blessing you say over it. And then the cycle of seasons, whether you have holidays that mark the cycle of the season, or you just notice the seasons. Now, I know some of your viewers and listeners will be in places where I don't consider that they have seasons, but I grew up in New England. So like to me, there are 4 seasons and, that's it. And even Pennsylvania. But even so, there are changes in the course of the year, right? To notice those shifts, I think, invites us to think about ritual as well. So.
All right. Now, we queued this up at the beginning that we could potentially have a portion of your book read to us. And I'm excited to do this because this kind of reinforces what we're talking about. And you're going to read to us a little bit about a school bus?
Yes.
Is this true? Okay, I'm excited. Can you set this up for us a little bit?
I will. So this is a chapter. It's chapter 2, and from Milkweed and Honeycake, I was told to show this close up because the picture is so beautiful.
It is gorgeous.
Chapter 2, which is called Yellow School Bus Moments. And it is one of the chapters that really illustrates the stumbling upon moments that have a resonance beyond the obvious and where there is no ritual. And in this chapter, just a spoiler, I don't end up creating a ritual, but it causes me to reflect on the need for them. Yellow school bus moments. When my son turned 6, he rode the yellow school bus for the first time. We stood at the corner with other families. He was biting his lip with an expression of bravado mixed with worry, a new bright red backpack, big enough to grow into, drooped below the back pocket of his pants, and when another child spoke to him, he looked shyly at his brand new Blues Clues sneakers. I surreptitiously took slow, deep breaths and tried to quell the rush of adrenaline, the pounding of my heart. The bus made a wide arc around the corner, groaned to a halt, and the door opened with a squeal. After a lingering hug, my son clambered up the steep steps. I could see his little face pressed against the window, and I waved madly. The bus turned the corner, the light changed, and it was silent. The traffic stilled for a moment. I dabbed at my eyes, and my neighbor, who had 4 children, said, "I know," and put her arm around me. "It gets easier." But easier isn't exactly what happened over time and circumstance. That morning, my feelings were more complicated than just anxiety or sadness, more than something to get used to. I go on to explain that it's quite distinct from, say, bring your kid to daycare for the first time, where you're sad and you kind of feel like, am I going to get over this? But the school bus was different, I write. For while I felt a similar sharp tug at my heart when he boarded the bus, I also simultaneously and unexpectedly experienced something else in equal measure. The bus stop was the first time I consciously felt this novel mix, though I suspected it happened in small ways during the previous 6 years. At the bus stop, my mix of feelings included the familiar yearning and some sadness, but added to this was an exquisite joy and pride in my child's little departure. That doesn't quite capture the feeling. It is joy and pride tinged with a tug of separation, but more than that. With each turn of the season, that feeling deepened and became more complex, and I came to think of these as the yellow school bus moments. I go on to explain my younger child's first, for me, yellow school bus moments. My younger child is now a professional circus artist, but the first time I saw them do what's called a drop from those silks that you see in Cirque du Soleil, everybody was like, "Wow, aren't you scared?" And I wasn't scared. I had a yellow school bus moment of exhilaration and awe. Awe is how I describe it. And I write here in the middle of the chapter, perhaps the complex feelings in the yellow school bus moments come from this. Just as we start to get to know these little creatures, for they seem to have barely arrived, they start to leave as it should be. But here's the thing, and this is what distinguishes these moments from dropping the kid at daycare for the first time. Accompanying the pang of separation, which fades, is a soaring joy at their wobbly but determined march up the steps of the bus. Look at them shrugging off their chrysalises and taking wing. Look at them with their backpacks, scurrying down the sidewalk like hatchling sea turtles from nest to crashing wave. And there's in that chapter. So.
See, no, that's what I love. I love hearing an author read to us, Wendy. That is very special because, again, for us, as we hold your book and then play this episode and have you read to us right from your book while we're looking at it, I think that's just kind of special to be able to do that. And I just love how an author reads their own book. I think it's quite unique. So thank you for doing that for us.
Sure. And I think we all like to be read to. I think it's fun to have a story read to you, even as an adult. So I hope that people experience that as well. I certainly like to listen, not just to ebooks and stories like that, but someone live holding a book and reading it to me. I think it's really lovely.
It's amazing. So for the book, for the reader, okay, let's envision this, Wendy. I have a copy of the book, just arrived on my doorstep. My amazing mail carrier took a picture with me as I have your book, right? And this whole thing has been playing out. I'm ready to sit down with a nice coffee or tea and read your book for the first time. Before I read this, before I open the cover and start into this, what's your love letter to me? What do you want me to know about this book before I start reading?
Okay. So I would say that I trust that someone who picks up this book is open-minded, that they will accept, not accept some of the things that I say, that they will linger over the language. I hope that you will really slow down with it. It's not a page turner. I mean, I think it's fun and interesting. People have told me, and there's some humor in there, but it's not a page turner that you zip through. It's probably not an airport read with a lot of noises around. They will linger over the words because I certainly did. I love the texture of words and I like choosing the right words. So to linger over the words, to skip around. If you don't find a chapter engaging you, then skip ahead. It's okay. This isn't, I was born, I went to school, I got married, I had kids, blah, 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 like chronology. You can read it out of order. I would say stop, look around you, like we talked about, take a walk, think about it a bit, and go back and reread a chapter, maybe, I would say. I would say engage with people around you to talk about what you feel like might be something you yearned for in your life that was stimulated by this, or that you used to do that you don't do anymore in your ritual life. So I hope for my dear readers that they will take their time, that they will reflect on their own lives, that they will notice the texture of the words, that they will puzzle over some of the words and some of the things, that they will wonder about things they never heard about before, that they maybe will wrestle with it like, no, I don't really buy that. And then reflect, why am I not buying that? So I would say it's not it is a quick read in the sense that I really work to make it accessible to as many people as possible. But it's a slow read in the sense that one should take the time to feel and think and reflect.
What are you proud about this book? What makes you so proud and you're just like, it makes you smile and you feel satisfaction? What is it for you?
Two things I would say that come to mind immediately. One is that when I am rereading some chapters, because I have to decide what to read at different venues, and so I have to practice reading it, make sure I don't stumble over my own words, I'm thinking, oh yeah, I did kind of choose that carefully. There is this image that recurs that I did pretty well, and I worked real hard. That didn't just come to mind. The muse didn't just land and then she got my fingers going on the keyboard. I worked really hard, and the imagery and the language really works. And some of the stories I still love, which is good. The other thing I'm proud of is that some of the people who have had a chance to talk to me in person or called me responded to particular stories that they identified with. And that means more than my own pride, that if I touched somebody and they were like, yeah, that reminds me of something, or gosh, I remember when, or I want to think about that more. I am so happy about that.
It's living life with intent, having a focus and knowing that you're here for a reason and picking up on those things. I think that's really important.
Yeah. And having the reader have gotten it, that I somehow communicated that connection across geography, communities, different people. We can use that right now, especially. I feel like bridging gaps. So
100%. Wendy, I have your website up while we're chatting. I love your website. For those listening and you haven't seen the book yet, go there. You'll see the cover. It's a gorgeous website. Wendy, tell us about your site and kind of like what we can find when we get there, and how do we stay in touch with you?
Okay, so on the website, beautiful banner, shout out to Mathieu Honoré, who created the website for me. I'm not an artist. You can buy the book. You just click on it. And there are 5 different ways to buy it, although one of them I would discourage you from doing so, which will remain nameless, starts with an A. And you can read my bio and then my informal, so my formal, like professional bio, and then my informal bio there. You can see all the events coming up, all the in-person events, which are mostly in the United States at this point, although I'll probably be going to London in June for an event, but mostly in the United States. If you happen to be in the States, there may be something near you. And also, and this is just developing, and this podcast will be among them, I have a news, interviews, and podcast section that we just added to the website as I'm developing these. So reviews, interviews, podcast section, and we will, as soon as this is available, we will have a link to that so they can find other sort of online stuff like that, but also news stories about the book and about me as those emerge over time. And on the website is an opportunity to write to me by email, and I will get that in my professional email. Also, there's links to my Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn pages, which are kind of fun things to follow if you're into that sort of thing. You can see what I've been up to.
I love it. Okay, that's great. I appreciate it. One thing we'll wrap up with you. I like to do this from time to time. The name of my show is Living the Next Chapter. So right there is kind of, there's a question built into the name of my show. I got to ask, we're celebrating the book. We want to enjoy every moment of that. But I got to know, Wendy, how are you living your next chapter?
Okay, so I realized at some point in this craziness of the book launch and promotion that I need to get back to writing every day again. So it's happening almost. And so I'm working on my next project. And I don't like to talk about a project too much before, because it could turn into something else altogether. But suffice it to say that at this point, that project is about our sense of place. And so I'm writing essays about places that are important to us. So
nice.
That's my next.
For the listeners then, that's fun because they're readers. They love falling in love with a new author that they just find. And they're always saying, oh, I hope Wendy has more. I have it. I have her book, but I hope there's more coming because I just love Wendy. So that's kind of nice to leave that door open for our listeners and the readers that are here, and opens the door for me to invite you back, Wendy, in the future to come back and talk about anything in the future you would love to speak about. And I'll just keep the door open for you. You can come back anytime.
I appreciate it. It's been a blast.
Excellent, everyone. All the information for Wendy's in the show notes. Go there, buy the book. And you know, if you've been here longer than 5 minutes, I'm going to ask you, when you buy Wendy's book, you're going to buy one for you and you're going to buy one for someone else at the same time. And you're going to leave a great review, because that's going to help more people fall in love with Wendy as an author, fall in love with her book, and help her to reach a bigger audience. So as readers, that's our responsibility to all these amazing authors, to support them with our words. It's our chance to give our words back to the authors and leave a great review. So please do that for Wendy. And again, Wendy, I'd love to have you come back in the future. Congratulations on your book, and to your letter carrier. That was a great story, by the way. I love that. Thank you for making time to be on the podcast, Wendy.
Thank you so much, Dave.
Hey, as we exit the podcast, as we leave out the door, I know the car's running. Somebody's eagerly waiting for you to get out there and go home. As we exit the podcast, I just want to ask, if you have time, I would truly appreciate it. We ask for you to do this for our authors. When you buy your book, we ask you to leave a review. Why? Because it means a lot to the author, and it tells other people that the book is great. Now, you don't hear me ask for this very often, so I'm going to do this here because we're friends, right? You and I are friends. I would love a review of this show, because it'll tell more people to come and listen to this podcast. So if you have Apple, wherever you're listening, there's probably some way to give a star rating or leave a comment about the show. YouTube, you can always leave comments on YouTube. Every episode's there. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a review, leave a rating, and share this with somebody. That's probably the best way to grow the podcast, is for you to share it. And by listening to the end of the episode, like you're doing right now, tells all the apps this is a good podcast. So thank you for already helping me by listening to this part. But go leave a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And thank you for being part of the podcast family. Take care.